You know, when we researched age regression with hypnosis, we did hundreds of cases in age regression. And there's the mystery here that people, if you take them back in time, in hypnosis, to the point of birth, they go back beyond that and start off with another kind of a life experience. And everybody has this. And even children can come up with tremendous ideas as functioning as adults, you know. But then again, there are three different theories that respond or explain the so-called reincarnation theory. Well, actually, reincarnation has more flaws than the other two. Of course, what I believe and what I would like are two different things. What I believe does not make it so. Because, I can start thinking, well, it is believed, and some astronomers know, that the planet is, they say, 5 billion years old, yet our lifespan on the planet is approximately male 74, female 75, says medical science. So what's the purpose of this planet being as old as it is, and we stay on the planet such a short period of time? It doesn't make sense, you see. But at any rate, some others, old-timers, you know, deep thinkers have said we are old souls in new bodies, that we need to work in the whole universe, not only on our planet Earth or other planets of the solar system, but in other solar systems and other galaxies also. Can you imagine if we are to be assigned in other galaxies and in other, just simply in other solar systems? There's 250 million solar systems in our baby galaxy, and there's billions of other galaxies bigger than our baby galaxy. So actually, that kind of makes sense that we could be old souls in new bodies, and that we are soldiers of the universe, assigned to this planet, assigned to other planets, assigned to other galaxies, or solar systems, and so on. At any rate, the concept of the reincarnation theory, they claim that the term itself was coined way back in time, when we believed that the planet was flat, and that you could fall off the edge, you know, if you went that far, and that the pinpoints of light in space were for decoration purposes. Well, astronomy has shown us different, that our planet is not flat, and that the pinpoints of light are other solar systems, or the sun's shining, or other planets shining the sun's light on our planet. So regardless, we don't have to come back to the same one. At the time, it was only believed that the planet, flat planet, was the only one in existence. So if we left the planet through death, we have been, or being born again, have to come back to the same planet again. And coming back to the same place is re-entry. And this is where the term came in, reincarnation. But what about if we go to some other planet, or are assigned to inhabit some other planets in the solar system, or other solar systems in our galaxy, or other galaxies? Then we'll be making an entry for the first time. It's not a re-entry, and it would not be reincarnation. It would simply be incarnation. So the term itself does not mean what it should have meant then, doesn't mean now. At any rate, there are two other theories that also explain the same phenomena. About these different stories that we get from children and from adults, everybody has them. If you age regress a person in hypnosis to the point of birth, and it's interesting that they would remember everything that took place in their life. And you can fill out thousands of pages of information. And anytime you want to test it out to see if you have the real thing, open the stack of information anywhere and go to any specific day and date and time and take them again to the same point in time, and they will say exactly the same thing they did. Can you imagine what a tremendous memory we have? Thousands of pages of information. It's like memorizing every page, what's on every page. This happens, and it's for real. Now, if we go and take someone to the point of birth and age regress them, there is a gap of time, of space, time as we know it, if we measure it by our time, of approximately 3 years, as if nothing is happening. Everything is held up in abeyance. You ask the person, where are you? I don't know. What's happening? I don't know. Hear anything? No. See anything? No. What's the temperature? Comfortable? And so on. Everything is dark, see nothing, hear nothing, and so on. Then, of course, you take them further back, and you find that they had lived kind of, it appears so, that they had lived another life. You have a person moaning, a 90-year-old engineer dying, and again here, you ask him where he's at, and he'll tell you where he's at, and what's happening to him, and continue to age regress him on his life track, and he has a different story altogether. And you take him to the point of birth, and again, it keeps on repeating over and over and over. At any rate, that theory is a theory because actually we cannot prove scientifically what is really happening here. We have to call it a theory. Another theory that would explain the same phenomena is as though that we are the sum total of all experiences that our ancestors went through and passed on to us at the genetic level and at what they call the aura radiation of each body. It alters our own body structures, and all information is recorded on matter, inanimate and animate. We record this information through our thought processes, our brain functioning the way it does, in frequencies, in modulations, and this radiates our body, what is called the human aura, 7 different radiating fields of energy that alter matter at different depths and so on. This is where all information is recorded. Carl Jung used to call it collective unconscious. Others call it the universal mind. Others call it the Akasha records. Many names, but that means that information has not been lost. We can always get the information back if we need it to solve a problem through what is known as psychometry. Psychometry is psychology, is a term used to measure mental faculties. In parapsychology, it's used for detection of information that has been impressed through these means. So sometimes we believe that when we take a child or anybody back to before the point of birth, that here comes a record or recording that was made by one of our ancestors and relate their stories and their experiences, but it comes out through our mouth, the mouth of the hypnotized subject, and it's as though the hypnotized subject is going through those experiences. But actually, we could say that who went through those experiences is his father or mother or grandfather or great-grandfather, and not he himself personally. He's only playing back a recording passed on to him from his ancestors. So then again, it's like a tape recorder that is saying something, and they say, I did it. Well, the tape recorder, we know it didn't do it. Who did it was who recorded the tape recording, and so on, something like that. The other concept, the third theory, is that we, through thought modulation, through thought processes, through thought transference, now we know that we can become attuned. You take, for instance, when we train a medical doctor to become clairvoyant, this medical doctor can mentally project to where his friend in China was in an accident, and this doctor can tell us how many fractured bones that his friend has suffered in China, even at a distance, without seeing him or knowing or talking to him. Now, this is what we call subjective communication in our field, and everybody can learn to do this if they need that information to solve problems with, and only for that purpose, not to create problems with, to solve problems with. It seems like to solve problems with concept is a certain influence that causes things to come in line, to open doors, and be able to perceive information. If you don't have the proper feeding of a concept, the door would not open for you to be able to get that information if you just contrary to being constructive, creative, and doing good, which means alleviating suffering, not create problems and causing suffering, because this is a different concept. At any rate, it's possible now for medical doctors to diagnose their patients at a distance without seeing them or talking to them, and that is the method we are teaching people nowadays in the cerebral mind control development and stress control system. So now that's the third theory. So there are 3 theories that explain the same phenomena that could get information mentally when one has not experienced such information, or we don't know exactly where the first one, theoretically, the concept of reincarnation, do they really pass or got those or went through those experiences, or they're playing back somebody else's experiences. So regardless, since we are not able to prove scientifically any one of the 3, we cannot take a stand on if reincarnation really exists, or is it one of the other 2 theories. So we stay, for now, just wait to see whether science will ever be able to prove any one of those 3, then we'll take a stand on it. Right now, we're not taking a stand on it yet. It could be any one of so many variables. Deja vu, for instance, could be one of your ancestors having recorded an experience, and you happen to come across it, and you feel it within yourself, and when you come up to that specific point in time or place, you feel as though you've been here before. Well, that you feeling that you were here before can also happen by having seen a movie with similar environment, similar scene, that the river's flowing down from right to left, and that there's a tree on this side and so on. If it's something similar, your mind will make up the difference, and you feel as though I've been here before. Well, actually, no. It was not a message from your ancestors recorded within you. It's not your experience that you have been there before, but you saw it in a movie, or maybe in a picture in the catalog. You happened to turn the page, you actually did not really concentrate on it, and you saw it subliminally, subjectively, and it's impressed within you. So when you see a similar scene, you feel as though I was here before. I feel as though I was here before. Well, this is not true. I mean, maybe it was recorded within your brain subliminally, either in a movie or seeing pictures in catalogs and so on. Or maybe it could be that your ancestors recorded it for you, and you happen to come across that information. God only knows how that happens, but it does happen. So this could be one of several different experiences. We ourselves have done a lot of research in these areas. And as far as we're concerned, and as far as other researchers are concerned, astral projection does not exist. What does exist is astral projection. The concept of this means that your body gets out of, that is when asleep, your body is sleeping and lying on the bed, for instance, your soul moves out of your body astrally, spiritually, and leaves your body behind, and you're aware of this happening, and you're floating in space, moving about, going in other directions, and you're still aware that you left behind your body. Well, actually, they're saying that first movement will be towards your feet. Then from there, you start feeling very light and like you're floating in space. And wherever you think you want to go, you go. And actually, that there's a connection between the head of the astral body and the head of the biological body. At first, when one is close to the other, a heavy cable. But as soon as the astral body starts getting further away from the biological body, the cable becomes thinner and thinner and thinner. So they call it the silver cord. Be sure you pronounce it right. Silver, not silva cord, okay? So silver cord, sometimes it's called the umbilical cord. At any rate, they're saying that the heartbeat is transferred from the astral body to the biological body, and that's what keeps your heart going. And they always fear that if the cord breaks, the person's going to die. So we do not recommend people to practice astral projection because we don't think it exists to begin with. But don't try to practice it because it has a fear factor built in. There are several different mechanisms that people experiment with, or I would say fool around with, such as the crystal ball, the tarot cards, the automatic writing, the pendulum, the Ouija board. All these instruments have fear factors built in. And when you happen to develop a fear, under those conditions, the fear is enhanced, it's strengthened. And before you know it, you become obsessed with your own fear, and you could be possessed by your own fear. Then you need to become exorcised. This is what exorcism is all about. When you strengthen or develop a fear of your own that nobody can prevent you from developing. You are causing it yourself. And you become obsessive with it, and that's a problem. So astral projection is not recommended. What we recommend, and we have experimented with, is mental projection. Now, mental projection does exist. We have many tests in projecting children when at their level using the right brain hemisphere. The intuitive faculties is another set of senses that one has that function in the invisible world of the mind. For instance, you project a child once in this dimension and connect it to the right brain hemisphere to a certain building in town that you know exists, in a certain corner of certain streets, you know, and the southwest corner of a street so and so and so and so. And it's a brick building, and you project the child there and tell them how many bricks are on the wall. Start from the ground on up until you start with the part that's the wood, and up to when you get to the wooded part, tell me how many bricks there are. You know, we had a child say, he's counting them, you know, he says, they're red bricks. He's counting them, he said, Mr. Silva, yes, on the 11th brick to the right, there's one with a hole in it. But we didn't know about that. Anyway, he counted the bricks, and so we, to prove that we are doing, actually getting the real thing, mental projection, we went to this place, and he was right on the number of bricks, and sure enough, the one on the right from the 11th had a hole in it. We did not know about this. Now, this is how we prove that mental projection is for real, it exists. Now, astral projection has never been proven in the laboratory. You see, everybody, we didn't know at the time, in hypnosis, a deep hypnotized subject ends up in 5 cycles per second. And the transcendental meditators enter the 5 cycles per second. Zen type meditation enter 5 cycles per second. Yogis enter into 5 cycles per second. We didn't want to go to 5 cycles per second because we found in the study of psychology that we grow in cycles of 7 years. And the first 7-year cycle, your brain average, overall average, is between 1 and 7. Mostly, you can find more 1s to 7s than any other frequency in the child between 1 and 7 years of age. And they call that the first anabolic life cycle. Well, mind functions within this range only inductively. There's no analytical faculties here yet. The analytical faculties, which means human intelligence, that intelligence that analyzes problems comes in between 7 and 14 years of age in the second anabolic life cycle. This is where the female goes into her monthly rhythm, the male voice goes into a mature sounding voice, and our mind starts functioning analytically. Mind, critical consciousness comes in, the analytical faculties set in between 7 and 14 years of age. And there's more 7 to 14 vibrations per second within this age. It seems like the child, for instance, brain frequency is always lower than a mature adult's brain frequency, the overall average. But when one gets into become adult, the whole thing switches by 180 degrees. 180 degrees. When you're a child, there's more lows than highs. When you're a mature adult, there's more highs than lows, just the opposite of that. So at any rate, we wanted to end up in the second anabolic cycle. In the center of the second anabolic cycle is 10 cycles, 10 vibrations per second. You see your brain vibrates like your heart beats, but your heart beats per minute and your brain per second, like radio transmission does. It's measured in cycles per second, or either thousands of kilocycles or millions of megacycles. Well, here we're talking about basic measurement units of measurement, just the basic ones, from 1 to 20. Overall average brain frequency of a mature adult when awake and conscious is 20, the overall. Now, we are looking for the center of that because it's the strongest, the most stable part of the brain. And besides that, we find that this is the center of human intelligence. This is where we should be analyzing our problems, not on 20. 20 is the dimension to act physically. 10 is the dimension to function mentally. And animals function on 5. We function on 10, average brain frequencies. So 10 is the center of human intelligence, and this is where we are connected to the right brain hemisphere, and the right brain hemisphere has its own special set of senses to detect information with, and they call them mental or psychic senses. And this is what a clairvoyant is, a person who uses his psychic senses to detect information, and they call it sensing information through intuition. Dr. Ryan called it extrasensory perception. We don't call it extrasensory perception. We call it enhanced intuitive factor, and that's what it is. All right, memory. Can you imagine, you get to thinking about conventional education, that we go to school to learn. But in order to learn, we must memorize what we learn, or at least remember what we have learned. And this is the biggest problem that we have. By the end of the school year, at the university level, you forgot about everything that took place. You need to depend on your textbooks mostly to recall information that you went through and is somewhere in your mind, but you cannot remember it. Well, you wonder why then. We know that there are memory courses all over the place, and memory courses have been found to be very effective. Memory courses. Well, you wonder why doesn't schools, conventional schools, conventional education do not start the child with a memory course, because a memory course is to remember what you have learned. Better memory. I mean, I would train every human being before they go to school with memory courses so as to retain all the information they're going to read. Well, we don't find a single memory course in conventional education. It doesn't make sense. We know that memory courses work. And if you want to get an idea how a memory course works, it's something like, for instance, you yourself selecting something that you can depend on to go by. Once you have one item to depend on, then you can add another item that you need to remember to the item that you depend on. For instance, you go to your home, what is the first thing you do? You reach for the knob or door handle. Well, that's point number one. That's the item number one. And in order to place them in order, this is what you can depend on. The item number one is your doorknob or door handle. Now the door is item number two then, that you can depend on. As you enter your home, the first thing that you see is sofa. That's item number three, sofa. So now you have three. You want to at least have 10 items like so that you can depend on. So from there on, you can always associate anything you need to remember with those items. And you go as far as you want to go, 100 items, 200, 300 items. So then how are you going to remember? The first thing that you're told to remember, you go ahead and hang it on the doorknob. Associate it with the doorknob in your mind. Make it ridiculous, like a giant doorknob. You have to open, with both hands, something like this. Item number two that you need to remember is, whatever it is, hang it on the door. Item number three that you need to remember, set it on the sofa. And this is the way you go. You can get as many as 100, 200, 300 items that you can depend on, and you can remember any order of things that you're supposed to remember, either chapters in books or formulas, give you numbers, words to numbers and so on, and you can do better in school then. But you need to go through a memory course first.
Discover Jose Silva's techniques to solve common problems and program yourself for success in the Choose Success Master Course at booksellers worldwide in ebook, audio, print, and large print editions.